21st of May 2017. It's, I say afternoon, it's 5 o'clock. It's that bridging moment between afternoon and evening. Hello, Toby. You coming to say hello because I'm not looking at you. And my name is Jared, or Peter, or Boniface, and I am a crocheter and knitter, a weaver and sewer. I live in Abingdon in Oxfordshire in the United Kingdom, about 7 miles due south of the city of Oxford, with its dreaming spires. We are, as you can possibly hear, there's birdsong in the background. I've got the window open. It's not warm, but it's not cold. We're kind of getting to the point where spring is giving way to summer now. Although it has been, with the breezes that have been blowing, it has been fairly cold. I mean, quite chilly on several days this last week, and obviously we've had a lot of rain as well, so we're not out of the woods, but it's kind of beginning to brighten up and warm up a little. I didn't get a chance to record yesterday, partly because Andy's 2 sons were staying this weekend. And while it's great fun having them around, they are quite noisy. And you wouldn't be hearing birdsong in the background, you'd be hearing Star Wars or Lego or something going on the PlayStation. So, what shall we do? To begin with, I don't have any finished objects. I do, however, have several bits of progress on projects that I've previously started or talked about, and quite a lot of progress on a project that I only started yesterday. So I'll start with that. This is a sewing project. I'm trying to learn quilting, and I've been watching an awful lot of YouTube videos by the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Jenny Doan, I think, D-O-A-N, Doan. And they're wonderful videos. She is a very down-to-earth and friendly, approachable kind of presenter, and very skilled, and she tries to simplify the processes involved in quilting so that it doesn't take a year to make a quilt. It actually only takes a weekend, potentially. And I've watched a lot of her videos, and I've been itching to get going on some. So before I actually show that, I will show the acquisition that led to what I've made. So she uses something called a layer cake. And a layer cake is a pack, usually of 42 fabric squares. Now, she normally uses 10 inch by 10 inch, these are actually 12 inch by 12 inch, and so I have a pack here, and each square is entirely different from every other square, so they're all random patterns, random colourings. You can get themed ones, but these are actually quite random, and really quite pretty as well, but very random. Polka dots and stripes and checks. So there's polka dots, and then there's gingham style check, and quite flowery bits and pieces as well, but some quite cute ones. So not all entirely feminine, but quite pretty. So that's a layer cake. And the other thing that she uses, if I can just find it, is something called charms, and these are called charms, freedom charms. This is a very simple charm pack. I'll just open it up so you can see what's inside. So this again is, I think, 25 on this one. Doesn't say. I think it's 25 squares. These are just solid colours, but lots of different colours. So they're 5 inch by 5 inch, and she uses a combination of the two. Sometimes she makes entire quilts out of several packs of these, for example. And so she makes, as I say, lots of different patterns, but she has a series of videos which are based around what's known as a pinwheel. A pinwheel, well, I'll show you a pinwheel. This is the quilt top that I've made so far, and as you can see, it's 4 different quadrants and 4 different colour, with the pink kind of unifying the whole. And a pinwheel is this, so you can see that it's an alternating triangle of stripe and pattern, stripe, pattern, stripe, pattern, with the points meeting in the middle. And I've got 4 of them together. And in fact, in the middle, you get the extra bonus pinwheel. As you can see, a pink stripe and then a blue pattern, blue stripe, pink pattern, pink stripe, yellow pattern, yellow stripe, pink pattern, and so on. Those of you who've been following me on Instagram will know that this one gave me a bit of a problem last night, because I took my eye off the ball, I think, as I was getting near the end, and I stitched the pinwheel going the wrong way round. So where this now has a pattern meeting a triangle there, and a meeting a stripe, and a stripe meeting a pattern, I had pattern, pattern, stripe, stripe. So it didn't work. So I had to unpick it this morning, and not just unpick. So I had to unpick the top row from the bottom row, then unpick these 2 from each other, and then unpick these 4 from each other, and re-stitch them all. So I was not a happy bunny, but I did it. I then discovered that I also hadn't actually paid full attention to what I was doing. It doesn't really matter, but if you look at the blue square, the stripes are all pointing in the same direction. And indeed, if you look at the middle pinwheel, the stripes are all pointing in the same direction. But if you look at the 2 pink squares, you can see that the stripes on the bottom are pointing from bottom, well, your bottom left, top right, and the ones on the other side are doing the exact opposite, and the same is true on those 2 squares at the bottom as well. So in fact, although the blue one is the only correct one, it's the odd one out because it's the only wrong one. But you learn as you go. This is my first attempt, and I'm quite pleased with it. So I've got to make a back for this and decide whether or not to put batting in. And the reason I'm hesitating is batting will make it quite a heavy quilt, and it's for a baby and a young child, and would be effectively a comfort blanket after it's stopped being used as a bed covering for them to sit over their knees or whatever. So I may just put a backing fabric on without batting and then quilt it, which is producing the interior stitches within the creating a pattern on there. And I'll once I've finished it, I'll be able to explain that more for you. So I've got basically 2 choices of fabric for the back, which is either this elephant's fabric, which is quite pretty and has many of the colours, or the same colours if not the same shades, that are on the front fabrics, or something completely different, and that would be this white with blue polka dot. I'm only hesitant because I intend to do the back bigger than the front so that I can miter the corners and have a border around the hole as well. So I just need to make sure. What I'll do is I'll lay them down on the fabric. I've already laid it down on this, and I'm just not convinced that the colours are quite close enough for that one. So I may do something with that and hope that the blue will pull it all together. Other than that, it's going to have to be a plain fabric, and I think probably I will go with the white and blue polka dot. So that's been quite good fun. I've been using my new sewing machine, Dotty, and I've even got out the bigger table, so that's been quite useful because with the individual squares it's quite simple, but once you move on to stitching the 2 together to make the row and then stitching the rows together, you're dealing with quite large amounts of fabric. One thing I would say about this, and this is very much about Jenny and the Missouri Star Quilt Company. These look very complicated, but in fact, this square here, and the same for the other 3, what you actually do is get 2 of those fabric squares, put the right sides together, and then sew around the outside edges, all 4 edges, and then you get a ruler and cut them diagonally across in both directions. When you do that, you take out the 4 triangles that have now been made and open them out, and you end up with these half-square triangles. So it looks a lot more complicated than it is. The biggest complication with this is making sure that the points meet up at the edges and in the centre. And that's a case of nesting your seams. And to do that, you'll see here that the seam on the back side bends from the stripe to the pattern, but and it does on the other side, which means that they're actually going in opposite directions, and that means that the seams themselves are able to butt right up to each other. So, and I've learned all of this from Jenny. I also watch a guy called Rob on Man Sewing, and he's also... What I like about both of these channels is the can-do attitude. Yes, it's going to involve some work, but actually you can break it down into quite manageable sections, and it becomes really quite simple to do after a fashion. Really, you know, the mistake I made was just not paying attention at the critical moment, and you know, you learn from your mistakes. What is it? They say check twice and cut once. Well, check twice and sew once as well. Otherwise you have to rip out the seams and it all becomes a bit tedious. So one of the things I went out, well, my friend Wendy, she yesterday was very, very bad. She tried to get me to go to Mason's. She didn't try very hard, it has to be said, but she did ask me if I wanted to go, and I was very good. I said, no, I don't need anything, I won't. Well, I did need something. I discovered almost as soon as I'd said no, which was that I needed some more white cotton thread for the sewing. In fact, I did run out, but I was able to use a very pale pink thread, given that 2 of the squares are pink. That wasn't an issue anyway. So this morning, Wendy's husband, Bob, the other enabler-in-chief in my life, was taking Wendy to Hobbycraft and Dunelm in Botley, in Oxford, this morning, and they asked if I'd like to go. So I said yes, I did, because I wanted the thread. That was all I was going for. Actually, the other thing I was going for, which I only decided this morning I needed to go for, was a new rotary cutter, because the one I've got, I think I must have misused it somehow, maybe cut some paper or card as well. It's possible I cut some card with it, but it doesn't cut the fabric very smoothly and easily, so I bought myself a new one with a soft grip handle, and this is quite nice because it stands on a flat surface like that, so it's always ready to be used, and it has a safety lock here which I can open, and then all I do to use it is, and as soon as I let go, it closes the guard again. And there's the blade, and there's the guard. And then when I finished with it, I push the little button up, and it's locked. And I got an extra blade with that, and it was half price, because Hobbycraft have a half price sale on selected sewing items at the moment. So that was quite useful. And the cotton as well, I bought twice as much cotton as I was going to buy, because I paid the same that I was going to pay, but with it being half price, I got twice as much. So that was good. And I also bought some yarn. I know, I'm terrible. In fairness, I bought some yarn. You've seen it before, the Women's Institute yarn. Sorry, just dropped something on the floor. Women's Institute yarn, so I bought some more of the yellow and lime and the white, because I've been making a hooded top with granny square, and the green on here is actually the turquoise kind of thing is actually called aqua. This is actually, they didn't have this at the time, but this is actually the colour that's supposed to be. So as I've got 2 babies about to be born in September, I thought I'd make one with the aqua and then make another one with the turquoise. So I need to crack on with that. So and they were on special offer, so it was 3 for 2 as well, and it's very reasonably priced, £2.20 I think for a skein. So I was able to get 6 for the price of 4, so that was quite nice. I also saw this book on quilting, The Quilter's Bible. Now, a lot of what I know from watching YouTube videos, but I also do like to have a reference book with me. I find it easy to follow what's going on TV, but I find it easier to recall what's written down in front of me. I'm a much more kind of written, and it's a beautifully presented book. I mean, really attractive diagrams, clear explanations. I'm going to enjoy reading it in its own right, and I'm quite hopeful that if things continue as they are, then I will be doing more a wider variety of quilt squares. Because the other thing about my quilt that I've been working on yesterday, yes, I made a mistake, and yes, it's not perfect, but actually it's my first attempt, and I'm quite pleased with it. You know, I've learned a few skills, and those skills will improve the more I practice them. Because it's Sunday evening, my drink today is a very nice Côte d'Ron Village. It's the Chateau Combi. Yes, Chateau Combi, and this is a blend of Syrah and Grenache grapes, if anybody's interested. 2014. So excuse me a second. And it's delicious, as you'd expect. So, what else did I buy while I was there? Well, I also bought a crafting tray. It's a portable tray, so you carry it around, and it has a lovely flat plastic work surface, a little cup holder for holding stitch markers and the like, and most importantly, and the reason I really got it, it has this LED light system. So this corner of the room, because the window is over there, can get quite dark, even in the summer. So it'd be quite useful when I'm sitting here working to have that on my lap and have the work on the tray and the light on so that I can see, particularly with some of the things that I'm doing with darker yarns. It can be quite difficult to see the stitches with darker yarns because, well, anything that's dark isn't showing up as easily as anything that's light. So having this here and available is quite a nice thing. So it just runs on batteries, so I don't have a wire leading to anywhere, and I can just pick it up and put it aside. It's incredibly lightweight, so you really don't notice it on your lap at all. So I'm quite pleased with that. I'll put that down there where it's safe. And I also, because I will be doing some binding at some point, and therefore will need to be making bias binding, which is not something I've had to make thus far. I saw this. This is a bias maker, and that comes, well, you buy fusible tape to go with it, and as it goes through them, the machine, the maker, as it were, it sticks to the bias binding, and then it just is fusible, so it will press onto your garments. I think it's actually sticky, so I think you peel off tape from it. So that will be quite simple. So as I come to make bias binding, I'll give a better review of that particular product. And I also went into Dunelm and managed to find at last, which would have been really helpful last night and this morning, some starch spray. When quilting or doing any kind of embroidery work, you get a better effect if you make the fabric slightly stiffer. It doesn't pucker, and it doesn't. It just makes it easier to keep together rather than having flimsy, floppy fabric everywhere. So that'll be quite useful. As and when I need it. It would have been a lot more useful yesterday, but I've got it now. And couple of other acquisitions which I've not talked about, I don't think, so I'll just mention them. I buy several magazines well, some of them are monthly and some of them are quarterly, or bi-monthly. And these are two kits that came with one of my two different magazines. So there's this, which will make an owl doorstop, which I need to, just looks so adorable. And then there's these lovely fabrics to make patchwork items. There are a number of different patterns. This is a chicken, again doorstops or cuddly toys, depending what you fill them with. And the fabrics are really quite pretty, very summery, or spring-like if you prefer. Sorry, I'm showing those to you off camera, aren't I? So there's various, that's birds. If I show them the right way up, it might help. So there you've got tulips and birds and I don't know, waves, clouds. I don't know what that is. Polka dots of purple and pink, and then difficult to tell, but I mean there seems to be a design within the grey on the yellow, but it's very difficult to see with the colour contrast being so slight. But yeah, very pretty little. Oh, it's because it's on the back. It's easier to see if you actually look at the right side of it. So yeah, so quite pretty. I will look at one or two of those things. These are going to be quite quick to knock up, so I will make the owl first, I think, because I'm just in love with owls at the moment. I hadn't realised how much I like them, but I do very much. So I've mentioned I've been working on the hooded crochet granny square top, and I've made the right hand front. So I need to make a left hand front to match. They're actually identical at this stage, so I've made one of the two fronts, which is a half square, and then I need to make a 2/3 square for the hood, and then two smaller squares for each of the arm. And then it's a case of just stitching them all together. But I've also been working on the dungarees, and these are quite quick to come together, so I will just show. I did have them all in order, but they've fallen all over. So I've got about 24, 25 of these squares done now. So they're only little granny squares, they're only 3 rounds. Very quick to come together, colour change with every one, so lots of ends to sew in. I need to make 40 in total of the various different colour combinations, so I'm well on the way to finishing those. And when I do, then I can start stitching those together, and that will become a pair of dungarees. And I suspect I'll probably make another one of those as well. Toby, no! I don't know what it is about cats and things that they shouldn't sit on that they decide they want to sit on. I don't know. There we go. Let me move those things out of your way. There you go. Lots of space for you to sit now. So my other major work in progress is quite a sad one, really, because a colleague at work, well, where else would a colleague be? A colleague is leaving us in less than a month's time. She's a friend as well as a colleague, but she has got a dream job working for a Formula One team. She's a graphic designer, so it's an opportunity to work for a global brand. Based in the UK, as most Formula One teams are, but it's a wonderful opportunity for her. But the sadness is that means we're losing her, and that, you know, she's a lovely person, she's very talented, but is also such a very nice person, so I'll be sorry to see her go. So I've decided to make her something. I was actually in the process of thinking about what to make her anyway, because I was going to make something for her birthday, which isn't until November, but this has kind of squashed the time scale somewhat for me. So I've been making this shawl, and I think you can just about see that there are 3 butterflies. There's one there, and then there's 2 there, and I've started the process of making 3 at the next level, and it will keep on expanding. And this is using one of the Sirdar colour wheels. It's this wonderful shades, and fortunately I did show her the yarn I was going to be using, and she loves the colours, so that's a good start. So I need to crack on with that, but it won't take. I think I should have that finished by the end of the week, because it's only a single ball of yarn project. The nice thing is I keep the repeats going until I'm running out of yarn, so it's one of those projects that is scalable to the amount of yarn I want to use, basically. And it looks quite complicated, but it's actually quite simple, except I'm having to use just a diagram because the designer is Russian and has written the design in Russian, and I don't speak Russian, so it's very difficult. And she's only done the first and second pattern, which isn't massively helpful because you really need to see what happens on row where you go from 2 to 3 rather than from 1 to 2, because the first one is always odd compared to the rest of the repeats. So there's been a little bit of scratching of head and working things out, but I'm confident now that I'm on the right track, and it's mainly treble crochets and chains. It looks lacy, which, given the thinness of the wool that I've mentioned before, is quite a good thing. But it will be quite warm when worn, so it's I think crochet items always are deceptive. They tend to feel. I'm just going to stop because my friend. Apologies for the interruption. I was just talking, I believe, about crochet. The fabric on crochet appears quite lacy. There's lots of holes. The stitches are quite open compared to the stitches on knitting, for example. So you can see that there's quite a lot of space within the stitch and around the stitch. It may come as a surprise, therefore, that to crochet the same item or size of item as to knit actually uses more yarn. So the fabric itself, although it's got a lacier look, is actually more dense because of the way in which the stitches are constructed. So, perversely or paradoxically, however, it's said, the lacier garments are actually really very warm. One of my friends, to whom I gave a shawl as a birthday present at Christmas time, she says that she puts it on over her shoulders if she feels a bit chilly in the evening, and she has to take it off after half an hour because she's really too hot. And despite the fact it's a very open lace construction, so it's just an interesting phenomenon to observe and to understand. So yeah, I think therefore that I've more or less finished this week. I've not got a lot to talk about, and I just wanted to get something up and out there to you. I have a long weekend next weekend, thankfully. I'm taking a day from all the extra time I've worked in the last few weeks on Friday, and it's the spring bank holiday on Monday, the 29th of May, so I will be able to get more stuff done over the weekend, and we'll have, I hope, a lot more to talk about next week. So I think that's everything. So until next week, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next week.